Week 9. Damn, the Saints fell off harder than... Oh my, I just got ejected. Typical Jets nonsense, but clearly CJ Stroud was going to struggle without his top 2 targets, and it also doesn't help when the Jets defense finally comes out and looks how we expected them to all season. And the Cowboys season is over. In addition to once again not showing up until the 4th quarter, Dak got hurt and is expected to miss time, CeeDee Lamb got a little beat up, and Jerry Jones is still alive. Good win by Atlanta, who continues to widen the gap in the NFC South. Not all 5-3 teams are created equal. The Ravens just got back to their regularly scheduled domination of the league, and Denver is still a solid team, but just not to this caliber. Miami actually made this a lot closer than I thought it would be, but even with missing Amari Cooper, this Buffalo offense rolled all game and basically wrapped up the AFC East crown. Carolina actually fucking did it. They beat the Saints. Good for Bryce Young. Well, New Orleans, welcome to rock bottom. This was under strong consideration for a toilet bowl, but clearly Cincinnati is just a much better team. Their defense is still a little bit of an issue, but this offense definitely bounced back after being stifled last week. Standard Chargers. Obviously, we're the much better team coming in. The game itself wasn't pretty, but the offense was able to make chunk plays, and the defense shut down Jameis Winston and this offense. If the Giants could play Washington every week, we may actually see signs of life from this team. Not a whole lot to read into, just some divisional rivalry stuff. This toilet bowl was astonishingly pretty decent. No? Okay. The game was as slow and sloppy as you'd expect, but Drake May really grew a pair to force overtime. Ultimately, Tennessee kicks a field goal and closes out New England with a pick. Now we have a better idea of who both these teams are, but they're still basically the same. Two middling teams who at any point can get hot and are dangerous. But Arizona was more of that today and has won their 3rd straight game. In the first half, Saquon Barkley and the Eagles offense was just on a different level, but Jacksonville decided to wake up in the 3rd quarter and made the game a lot closer than it should have been. Philly was close to choking this one away, but after a late Trevor Lawrence interception, they held strong. What was supposed to be the game of the week ended up just being Detroit doing what they do to everybody. Even with the elements on their side and with home field, Green Bay just couldn't do a whole lot against this juggernaut. Now time for the real game of the week, a pivotal matchup for the NFC West. The Rams overcame a 10-point deficit to force the game into overtime and win with a walk-off touchdown. Seattle's home field advantage is starting to look shaky. Even though this game was pretty sloppy to start, this battle of similar style teams didn't disappoint. Indy's limited defense did the best they could to contain this Vikings offense, but Joe Flacco wasn't able to crack this Vikings D. Wow, a true Monday night classic. In the marquee matchup of Mahomes and Mayfield, it was nip and tuck throughout, but after the Bucs scored at the end of regulation to send us to overtime, the Chiefs matriculated down the field and won on a walk-off touchdown. So I actually went 14-1 last week, probably the best week for predictions I've had in the 3 years I've been picking games. Now that we're halfway through the season, how well did my preseason division standings predictions hold up? Well, let's find out, and we're going to start off with the AFC East, which so far I'm 100% right on, although under different circumstances with the Jets and the Dolphins. I felt like everybody was too low on the Bills coming into the season, and I figured that they'd come out and prove they're still one of the AFC elite. New England? I'm not really surprised. To be honest, I don't think I've picked them to win a single game this year anyway, so good on them for having 2. Then we're going to take a look at the AFC North, where I'm completely wrong except for the Ravens in 2nd place. Pittsburgh leading the division right now actually does surprise me, but I have a feeling Baltimore is going to win the North by the end of it. For Cincinnati, it's been a rough start for them in the first half of this season, and although a playoff spot seems out of reach right now, there's still a small chance of hope that they can sneak in. And Cleveland, yep, I definitely had too much expectation going into this year. Now taking a look at the AFC South, outside of Houston, the rest of this division's been a joke. Coming into the season, I believe that this was going to be the most competitive division in the NFL, when in reality, the Colts and Jags actually just suck. We knew Tennessee could, but even I had a little bit of hope that maybe they'd look better than what their record shows. Then taking a look at the AFC West, and surprise, surprise, the Chiefs are leading the West thanks to their still undefeated record. Right now it looks real neck and neck with the Chargers and Broncos fighting for the 2nd place spot, and maybe even a wild card berth. While the Raiders, yeah, it's over. Now flipping over to the NFC side, starting off in the East, and stop me if you've heard this one before, but Washington came out and surprised everybody in this first half of 2024. Before the season started, I did predict Philadelphia would end up winning the division, and they don't seem to be too far behind. Dallas has been nosediving and sits at 3rd in the division, ahead only of the 2-win Giants, who I figured would be worst of the 4. Now we take a look at the strongest division in football, the NFC North. Lions sitting comfortably not just on top of the division, but possibly the entire NFC. Minnesota's unforeseen 5-0 start actually shook up the division and made it a lot tighter. Green Bay sits in 3rd place right now, but are still a tier 2/3 team. Chicago had a promising start, but growing pains are starting to set in for everybody, and if they're not careful, they could end up missing the playoffs entirely. Now taking a look at the NFC South, I figured it'd be between Atlanta and Tampa Bay for the winner, but one thing I was not ready for was to see the Saints behind the Panthers. That's also considering New Orleans started 2-0, but more on them in a minute. Then finishing up in the NFC, we have the West, and this whole division shook up so fucking fast. For most of the season, it looked like it was in Seattle's control, until it wasn't. Then San Francisco was holding on to it for a moment, until Arizona came in and took it. Now, as we've seen the last few weeks, the Rams are starting to climb their way back into it. This and the North Division are going to be the most fun ones to watch. Man, I can't believe we're already halfway through the season. It feels like it just started. Nevertheless, let's get ready for the second half of the 2024 season. Starting off week 10 on Thursday Night Football, we got the Bengals taking on the Ravens. Wait, hold on. Is this the right script? Hold up. Let me look through it real quick. Okay. Earlier meeting in the season in Cincinnati, Baltimore winning by 3 points. Second meeting in Baltimore on Thursday Night Football. Mark Andrews and Joe Burrow get injured? Oh wait, that was 2023. My bad. The last time these two teams played, we got probably the game of the year. A high-scoring shootout that went into overtime, which the Ravens closed out with Justin Tucker kicking the game-winning field goal. Now at this point in the season, we know the Ravens and the Bengals offense are going to put up points. The biggest concern right now for both teams has to be on the defense. Now the Ravens traded for Tre'Davious White to help address some of those issues. And Cincinnati looked at their defensive issues and thought, you know, Khalil Herbert's going to help this team. Nothing against Khalil, of course. But even though I think that this is going to be a high-scoring game, I don't think the score is going to be very close. Give me the Ravens winning this barn burner of an AFC North matchup and sweep the Bengals for the second straight year. To start off our Sunday, we've got the Giants taking on the Panthers. And if you're getting up early to watch this game, then you need serious help. Because this isn't just another German game. Oh, it's much more than that. Die Toilettenschüssel. Yeah, I know a little bit of German. Small flex. But, I mean, this has got the potential to be probably the worst game of the week. Now, the Panthers are coming in off of a win against the Saints. Yeah, I know, that was probably Carolina's biggest win in the last 9 years. But the roster right now is just not conducive to winning. I mean, you think of all the missteps this organization has had over the last few years. Giving away all their best players for basically nothing. Stripped the whole team down. Bad coaching hires. Like I said last week with the Titans and Patriots, there's really just no direction with this team. And speaking of Carolina giving away their best players, this is also going to be a Brian Burns revenge game, who was traded to the Giants during the offseason to integrate him with this defensive line that consists of himself, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Dexter Lawrence. However, throughout the season, the Giants' defense has been really consistent, and they might also be without Kayvon Thibodeau for this game. On top of that are the offensive issues. Daniel Jones lately hasn't been as bad as the beginning of the season, but he has not been able to consistently put good performances together unless it's against Washington. Now, when you look at these teams, there's honestly no way to say who's better than who. Because just like I said last week, these are two cheeks of the same ass. But I kind of want to abuse my Carolina dark magic. Let me pick the Panthers to win this one, just because I feel like Bryce Young has gotten a little bit of his confidence back. And against this defense, he's probably looking at it like,
barbecue chicken alert, barbecue chicken alert.
Plus, it'd be nice to see if I can go 3-0 picking the Panthers. Then we return to the States, where the Patriots take on the Bears. So the Bears are on a little bit of a skid right now. New England has looked a little bit better with Drake May at quarterback. Man, this game could honestly go either way. But just to piss SMA off, I'm going to pick the Bears to win this one and get back on track.
I am so goddamn tired of you disrespecting my Patriots. Drake May is actually a good fucking quarterback, unlike Caleb Williams, who likes to get carried by his defense and special teams. I don't hear you giving this much shit to the Cowboys like you do the
Wrong number. Anyways, we got the Bills taking on the Colts. And, I mean, it's just undeniable at this point that the Bills are one of the best teams in the league. But, since the game against Kansas City is next week, there's a little worry I have of them overlooking their opponent. Now, I know I was beating the drum for Joe Flacco, but I mean, playing the Vikings, Bills, and then the Lions defenses, it's tough sledding for literally anybody. However, though, because of how important next week's game is, I'm going to have the Bills winning this one comfortably. Then we're gonna have the Vikings taking on the Jags, and I think this team has more similarities than differences, outside of their record, of course. The Jags are 2-7, but you can't say that they're not giving it everything that they can. But unfortunately, unless the Jags decide to actually wake up this week, I'm gonna give this one to the Vikings to stay in the race for the NFC North. Then up next, we got the Broncos taking on the Chiefs in this AFC West matchup. And no, I'm not going to give you any nonsense about, oh, this could decide the division, blah, 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 blah. Simply put, a healthy Patrick Mahomes has never lost to the Broncos. So I'd imagine this being a relatively easy win for Kansas City. But to be honest, outside of the 2-win Saints and a 49ers team that has had half their team snapped away by Thanos, they've never truly put anybody away this year. And this Broncos defense is nothing like the Raiders. I think although Denver will keep it close, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Kansas City to remain undefeated after this game. Next up, we got an NFC South matchup with the Falcons taking on the Saints. In New Orleans, let's have a conversation. Let's just take a look back into September football. You beat a really bad Carolina Panthers team and a Cowboys team, which it turns out is not a very good home team this season. Actually, let me double down. They're not a very good team, period, this season. And I was there in Dallas, watching all of these Saints fans have their little parade after going 2-0, talking about Super Bowl, talking about winning the division. And just from a pure football stat standpoint, New Orleans did look really good in both those games, offensively lighting up the scoreboard, and their defense absolutely clamping down on everybody. Now let's see how they've done since the glorious Cowboys win. Oh, they've lost every game since. And up to this point, the final straw that broke the camel's back. You lost to the fucking Panthers. I mean, I haven't taken them seriously all season, but at this point, it feels like something has to give. The defense over the last 2 months has been horrific. Their offense pretty much can't do anything. A part of it had to do with Derek Carr being hurt and Spencer Rattler having to take over for a few games. But even with Derek Carr back, it doesn't feel like there's really a difference that's being made. Something needs to be done here. Somebody needs to pay. Oh, and how convenient. It's Dennis Allen. Get this fucking guy out of here. Now, back to the actual game itself. I mean, I pretty much basically covered why the Saints won't win, so give me the Falcons sweeping the Saints this season. Then up next, we got the 49ers taking on the Buccaneers, and the control of their respective divisions has started to shift a little bit. But San Fran is coming off a bye, and the last time we saw them, they came out with an impressive win over the Cowboys. But the Bucs, even with the injuries they've suffered on defense and in their offensive skill group, they were still able to take Kansas City to overtime. I know the safe way to go is to pick the Niners, but this time around, I'm going to pick the Bucs to win this one, kind of finally put everything all together, and go into the bye week with a win. Then up next, we got the Steelers taking on Washington, and this is a game that could also go either way. Pittsburgh at 6-2, Washington at 7-2. But at the same time, I feel like these are teams that are in playoff contention that don't get taken as seriously. Now that Russ has ignited the explosivity of this Pittsburgh offense, they could keep up with Washington if they need. But the biggest factor in this game has to be Pittsburgh's defense. Now, Washington's defense should also be better with the addition of Marshawn Lattimore, but I feel like it's going to come down to one big play being made by TJ Watt. Give me the Steelers edging this one out. Now to open up our late window, we got the Titans taking on the Chargers. You know, in a way, I feel like the Chargers are going to end up playing down to competition, but if I'm going to be honest, I really don't see the Titans winning. Sure, they're going to fight hard and they'll keep it close, but I think when we look at the game, it's going to be more about the Chargers not playing to their expectation. But go ahead and give me the Chargers winning this one. Then up next, we got the Jets taking on the Cardinals, and I feel like this is a pressure point for both teams right now. The Jets spooked the Texans by winning their first game after losing the 5 before. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams believes that this Jets offense is going to be able to run the table. But in Arizona, against this Cardinals team who just won 3 games in a row, are starting to get hot, and now lead the NFC West, yeah, I really don't see that happening. Arizona's been pretty consistent all throughout the season, but their defense has just started getting a lot better. So give me Arizona winning this one comfortably. Then, up next, we have the game of the week. We got the Eagles taking on the Cowboys. Now, on behalf of all Cowboys fans, I know this is what we're all thinking every time Jerry opens his mouth.
Shut the fuck up! Shut your bitch ass up!
But Dak's going to be out for this game and probably for the rest of the season. CD's dealing with an AC joint injury. That defense should be getting Micah Parsons back, but it's not really going to make a difference since he was playing when New Orleans and Baltimore ran up the board on us. And for Philly, I mean, since their bye week, they've looked really good. Even though I hate to give props to a division rival, Philly's offense seems to have found something by leaning a lot more on Saquon Barkley. Not only that, the defense has been getting some key takeaways over the last few weeks. I got Philly winning this one comfortably in my lock of the week. And for the Cowboys, Your season is over, yeah, your season is over. You'll be 3-6, and now your season is over. You ain't making playoffs no more. Then on Sunday Night Football, we got the Lions taking on the Texans. I think a lot of us had this game circled when the schedule came out. What should be a duel between the biggest juggernauts in the NFL is probably just going to turn into another Detroit blowout. The Texans are dealing with a lot of injuries, namely on their O-line and in their receivers. There is a chance Nico Collins could come back this week though, but against the Lions pass rush that just got Zadarius Smith, CJ Stroud is going to have a tough time back there. Give me the Lions winning this one. And how are we not at the point where the Lions are number 1 in power rankings? I get the Chiefs are undefeated, but Jesus Christ. Even when the Lions are good, they're being disrespected. Then to finish up the week, we got the Dolphins taking on the Rams. And if this game was being played 2 weeks ago, this would have been the biggest injury bowl that we've seen on a Monday night. But Tua is back for the Dolphins, but their offense, while it has looked better, just isn't the same unit that we've seen over the last 2 years. Now the Rams, Matthew Stafford having Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua equals great results. Now hopefully in this game, Puka can go without trying to punch somebody and play throughout the whole night. I also think the Rams defense is starting to find themselves a little bit. Give me the Rams winning this one to challenge the Cardinals for the top of the NFC West. And that's going to do it for my Week 10 predictions. I know, a little bit of a longer video than normal, but I just had so much to talk about, and I had a lot of good memes. But all that aside, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and be sure to come back next week to check out my Week 10 recap and my Week 11 prediction. We'll see y'all next time, and keep it trill.